Tonight, the feud between Donald Trump and James Comey is escalating. Now the president is talking about jail for the former FBI director. We'll show you how Comey is responding. Then President Trump bragging about the economy and tax cuts, but it's what he isn't saying that may be even more telling. We'll tell you all about it. And later, will Democrats ride a blue wave in November and take control of the House of Representatives? We will look at the math and also break down how our area could become pivotal. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. And we start tonight with the ongoing legal battle over documents seized during the FBI raid of Michael Cohen's office. Donald Trump's attorney was in court yesterday and there were plenty of surprises.
There may not be a more strident advocate on television for President Trump than Sean Hannity.
Now, keep in mind, Cohen was never part of the Trump administration or the Trump campaign. This is now officially an all-hands-on-deck effort to totally malign and, if possible, impeach the President of the United States.
The Fox News host has been critical of the recent FBI raid on Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen. But Hannity has now been named in open court as one of 3 clients of Cohen. Cohen's the subject of a months-long criminal investigation by federal prosecutors in New York. Hannity responded on his own Fox News program last night.
Michael Cohen never represented me in any legal matter. I never retained his services. I never received an invoice. I never paid Michael Cohen for legal fees.
Monday's court hearing was meant to determine whether federal prosecutors can start reviewing material seized from Cohen's properties. The judge denied a request from Cohen and Trump for a temporary restraining order.
Stormy!
Adult film actress Stormy Daniels showed up to watch, though she never appeared to interact with Cohen, the man who paid her $130,000 to keep quiet about her alleged affair with Donald Trump. Today on The View, Daniels showed a sketch of the man she said threatened her in 2011 to drop the claim.
And to your recollection, is that the person that threatened you?
Absolutely.
All right, so from that, let's shift to Trump versus Comey. And in the president's ongoing Twitter rant against the former FBI director, Trump has mentioned jail for some of the things he says Comey has done, like leaking classified information and lying to Congress. Today, Comey responded. Here he is during a radio interview.
Think about how far the erosion of our norms has come in just a year, that's not shocking to people. It's a sign of the danger from this forest fire. We can't become numb to that, and we have to point it out when it happens and not say, oh, that's just another one of those, because it is not normal. It is not okay for the President of the United States to say that a private citizen should be in jail.
The President of the United States threatening his political opponents with jail time, that is just not normal in our politics. Then again, Mr. Trump did the same thing with Hillary Clinton, so maybe this is our new Trumpian normal. My new normal tonight revolves around our panel. Let's introduce tonight's panelist, Richard Brodsky.
I'm new.
And never normal, a former Democratic New York State Assemblyman from Westchester County and a professor at NYU. And on the other side of the table, Scott Vanderhoff. Scott was the 5-term Republican Rockland County executive. He is now the co-chairman of the Palisades Institute of Dominican College. And Scott, let me start with you. To Mr. Comey's point, this is not normal, but is it our new normal, and what are the dangers for us if this becomes our new normal?
Well, I think the unsurprising and difficult part of this is none of this is new in a lot of ways. I mean, what he's saying are things that others have said for a period of time during the campaign as well.
But isn't there a difference between the campaign and actual governance once he's in office?
Let me kind of restate that.
Sure.
Since the campaign, since he's been in office, many of the things that he said are not necessarily new. I mean, there are things that others have said in books.
You're talking about Trump?
No, I'm talking about Comey and what he said.
Okay. But as for the president and threatening jail time for somebody like Comey or Hillary Clinton, well, Richard, what is the danger to the society, to the politics?
He's the chief law enforcement officer. You don't want him passing sentence, Alice in Wonderland-like, before there's a trial. We haven't had presidents personalize these kinds of things. He's not supposed to do that.
Well, why isn't he supposed to do it? What's the danger?
Because he's the chief law enforcement officer of the country. He swore an oath to uphold the law. He's not the guy who decides who goes to jail.
But it's not like the Justice Department is now, looking to arrest James Comey or Hillary Clinton.
You don't know that. And by the way, the Justice Department has started a criminal investigation of Hillary Clinton. So you forced me to explain something that the answer to your question, Andrew, is if you don't see how weird and bad that is, you ought not to be in that job.
I'm asking you to explain for our audience.
No, I think
they know too.
I think they know too. On the other hand, Comey is no breath of fresh air in this thing, and I think he's done things. I think he has been in violation of certain. In fact, I find him the most dispiriting and discouraging part of this, aside from the president's constant use of Twitter. I mean, I don't see him as the white knight in this thing.
Well, compared to who? The problem here is that in the end, this is about the truth. So one of these guys is lying. One of these guys is telling the truth, and the question is, who, based on the record, do you believe? Comey he got trapped into talking about Trump's skin color and his hair, and he also made some bad judgments. But if I had to go to the bank with someone's word between Donald Trump and Jim Comey, it would be Jim Comey every time.
Well, I think there are a lot of folks who agree with that. But I'm saying Jim Comey is not. He is not the white knight. He does not come with a certain. I believe he's got a lot of things that he is, and therefore, to your point, honesty is a question of the observer here. And
no,
the observer.
It's not, Scott. Honesty is a question of who's telling the truth. Answer this question: who's telling the truth, Jim Comey or Donald Trump, about the conversations they had?
You know what I think? I think they're both off. I think they're both. I think they've seen this from two different perspectives, and I don't think. You know what? If Comey had been quiet, just tried to sell his book without making this a national tour for money, I would have had a lot more respect for him.
Well, the respect is one thing. Do you think Donald Trump said to Jim Comey, "I'd like you to go easy on Flynn"?
Yeah, I think he probably did.
Then the rest of it is sideshow. I don't disagree with you that Comey has not shown himself to be the kind of guy you want to give the Congressional Medal of Honor to, but he's a career law enforcement officer. I think he's telling the truth, and the truth is what matters.
My issue only, Richard, is that it takes away from the truth by virtue of
this. There's some truth in that.
If this is just to soften the ground, Comey would have to be a key witness in an obstruction case, because let's be honest, the firing of James Comey would be part of any obstruction case that's brought by Robert Mueller. If this is just the president trying to soften the ground so that, let's say Mueller comes back with a report that says, yeah, we think there was obstruction here, and the Comey firing and some of the stuff we heard from Comey is part of that, is that just discrediting a witness that would be used against him? And what's the likely impact of that?
Who knows?
Once that information comes forward.
With who? Impact with who? With the jury or with the American public?
Well, this is a political issue, so it would be with the American public.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. But, I mean, and I would defer to counsel here, but it seems to me once he's done this, I mean, if in fact he's called as a witness, all hell's going to break loose about all the various details of this thing, and in his memory may not be the absolute truth, which means you got a whole new deal. It seems to me that if he's truly, again, getting back, if he's a real FBI law enforcement guy, he would have shut up. That's how I view it.
Yeah, I don't mind that he's going on a book tour. I mind some of the things he said, but look, the circus quality of this is not his creation. That deserves some comment as well.
Speaking of circus quality, the appearance in court yesterday of Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels was there, and that's when Sean Hannity's name gets in here, and it really was a circus-like environment. As for Sean Hannity, other than this all being embarrassing for him that Michael Cohen was a client of his, or that he was a client of Michael Cohen, I'm not sure what the big deal is with Sean Hannity.
The big deal is that if he was going to take positions on the Cohen investigation, on Comey, on anything dealing with Cohen, he had some sort of obligation to disclose. One of the things he yells about are conflicts of interest and failure to be transparent. If nothing else happened, his willingness to become a defender of a guy who he's paying money to.
But you're holding him to a journalistic standard, and I don't think, other than maybe some of his viewers or his most ardent viewers, I don't think there's a lot of people who consider him a journalist.
No, but Richard's correct, and I'll tell you why, because it's deeper than that. For the purposes of the audience, okay, if you watch him or not, okay, you want to be sure, you want to believe in him. If he leaves off a major fact, forgetting the journalistic issue, he leaves out stuff in his defense, suddenly now he becomes questionable. And that's why I think Fox is wrong to defend him so. And whether he was a client or not, I don't think it's really relevant. You just mention it. You say, look, just so that you believe me next time.
Well, if it's not relevant, why do you have to mention it? I think it is relevant. It's relevant. I think we're in agreement. You can call it journalistic standards. You can call it just truth-telling. But he had some obligation to disclose the relationship before he went out and opined on the guy.
How messy is the Cohen problem for the president right now? I mean, how big a deal is this?
Which conspiracy theory do you want to hear?
I'd like to hear your just general opinion.
Here's my general opinion. And it's everything that what Mueller is actually trying to do is bring everything together. Stormy Daniels, Cohen, Trump, and what brings it all together is foreign money. If the money, if they trace back the money Cohen used and it comes from a foreign power, Russia, some of the Middle Eastern countries, then everything sort of becomes intelligible to the American people, and I think Trump's in real trouble.
Does that potentially change the minds of people who are not already in the pro-Trump camp? Or the people who are in the pro-Trump camp?
Looking at it differently, I think the Cohen matter is far more serious for Trump than the Russian investigation, because I think it deals with his business operations and what he did, and how far back does that go, and how do these folks relate to one another?
You don't think that's boiled into people's impressions of Donald Trump? He's a businessman, maybe he cut some corners, but that's how you get ahead in big business, that's how you get to be a billionaire?
And what you can rely on Mueller to do is not bring charges that he doesn't have good evidence for. If Cohen produces evidence where any of this sort of comes back to foreign money, I think Trump is toast.
Does foreign money change the approach of Republican lawmakers who would have to deal with potential impeachment or other remedies?
I don't know their mindset, but my sense is they're always waiting there like they're the sword of Damocles, waiting for the next step of this. And I will tell you something. If forget the federal law, if this has state violations.
That's the point. And he can't pardon his way out of state violations.
Exactly.
And that may not be the only headache for the president right now. When we come back, President Trump and the economy. He has been boasting about his tax cuts and how they are helping the economy. That's the good news. Of course, he's burying the bad news. We will uncover it next.